Hello and welcome back to Joe's Nose NFL episode 16 for week 16. We have 3 weeks left of the NFL season. We just start to appreciate it more after all these weeks have gone by. Playoffs are coming up in 3 weeks. But of course, here we have Matt Freeman, Bobby Christensen, Dom Rafina, and me, Jack Kemmler. We're going to be going over our rapid fire game picks, strength and weaknesses for the Super Bowl contending teams and coaches that are on the hot seat. But right now, Thursday Night Football is playing. Rams are up 17-7, so cannot pick that game. We'll go to the Saturday games. 8-6 Bengals playing on Saturday again versus 7-7 Steelers.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals here on the road. Although Pittsburgh is a very tough place to go and win, I just think Jake Browning is red hot and he'll keep it going.
Yeah, same thing with Matt. Pittsburgh, it's a hard place to go play at, but that offense is getting around Jake Browning, and I think they're going to keep it going this week, get their 9th win, and look good for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to take Pittsburgh, but I'm going to do it. Give me Pittsburgh. Jamar Chase is out. This is a must-win game.
Yeah, I don't know if I really trust the Steelers quarterback right now. I'll take Jake Browning to win this one. 8-6 Bills come off their best win of the season versus the 5-9 Chargers.
Yeah, this is going to be one of my bigger upset picks of the week. I'm actually going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Buffalo Bills are on such a high right now. They're red hot. This is the type of game that nobody sees coming, and a very struggling Chargers team. I think we can all agree they have the talent. They've just been struggling mightily. I think that they're going to get the job done and be a sneaky team to make the Bills trip up.
Yeah, I tend to disagree with that. I mean, I agree with Bills are red hot. Chargers have the talent, but like you said, the Bills are hot, and I don't think it stops here. They're on a mission, and they're trying to make the playoffs. They have no room for error, and I think they'll get it done.
Yeah, and I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm just going to take the Bills here, but I don't hate your reasoning, Matt. I think Easton Stick is a dog, and he could get it done.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking the Bills here. I've been watching the Bills, even though it's a rivalry team for the Jets. But I think when Joe Brady came to this team, it's the best thing that's ever happened to them in the past couple of years. But moving on, two polar opposite coaches and teams right now. 8-6 Shane Steichen looking to get Coach of the Year, and the 6-8 Falcons. Arthur Smith on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think Arthur Smith is one of, if not the worst coach in the NFL, and Shane Steichen is probably the best coach in the NFL this year. He should win Coach of the Year, so I'll take the Red Hot Colts.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Red Hot Colts. Minshew Magic, he's cooking, and it's not going to stop here. So, yeah, give me the Colts.
Yeah, nothing much to say. I'm taking the Colts.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Colts on the road. Not a great one coming up. The Packers 6-8. Going to probably the worst place to play right now, 2-12 Panthers.
Yeah, the Panthers got really lucky, squeaked one out last week. I don't think it'll happen again, so I'll take the Packers.
Yeah, Packers are going to right the ship this week. The last 2 weeks it's been some rough games, but yeah, they're going to get it right this week, keep themselves in the hunt, and they'll get the job done here in Carolina.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah, I'll also be taking the Packers as well. Mentioning Coach of the Year, 2 Coach of the Year candidates here, 9-5 Browns going to verse in Houston, 8-6 Texans.
Yeah, I really think this Houston Texans team, I understand they've been dealing with the injury bug as of late. They're making that push to the playoffs. The Texans have been dying for a legitimate playoff team since Deshaun Watson left, and I think they will get the job done at home against another banged-up Browns team, so I'm going to take the Texans.
Yeah, like you just said, Matt, both teams are banged up. Losing Tank Dell is a huge, huge miss to this offense. He's a big playmaker on this team. But I think the Browns are going to get it done. I think their defense is still very elite. Stroud did not look very good against the Jets, nor did the rest of the offense. So I think the Browns are going to hold them to a low-scoring game, and they're going to win. They're going to win in a close one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Browns. Joe Flacco is actually looking very good, and I'm going to stay rocking with him.
Yeah, CJ Stroud actually questionable right now. They're leaning towards starting Case Keenum this week. I'm going to be taking the Browns away. Moving on, 10-4 Lions in an individual matchup going to Minnesota versus the Vikings.
Yeah, the Detroit Lions, this NFC North division is extremely tight. The Lions they've been fair in the interdivision opponents. They've done pretty well on the road inside of the division, but I do believe the Vikings are going to take this one. Their season is on the line, and I think they get the job done.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings here too. In division game, and yeah, the last two games. You look at their last two games. The Raiders game where they won 3-0. That was terrible. And then last week on primetime against the Bengals, they were right there. But I think they're gonna get a little upset here. I think the Lions. I'm not that too confident in the Lions, and obviously the Lions will make the playoffs, but I think they'll be first round exits when they get in there.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's hopping on the Vikings train all of a sudden. Give me the Vikings. Nick Mullins is a dog at home. They're gonna get the job done.
I think Lions will take care of business here in Minnesota. Moving on. This one's a bad one. The 32 ranked defense, 4-2 Commanders, going to the Jets versus 32 ranked offense.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm a Jets guy. Although I wouldn't call myself a Jets fan, I do root for them. I think the Jets are going to lose this one, unfortunately. I think it's good for the franchise as a whole. You get a better draft pick. But with Rodgers not coming back or for this year and playoffs pretty much out of the picture, I think this defense, although they are elite, I think they're just not going to be too motivated in this one. So I'll take the Commanders on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jets here. I think the Commanders are so bad. They're a terrible football team. I don't think Sam Howell's good. I know they were talking about switching up the quarterbacks. I know Sam Howell got pulled last week, but that team has no confidence either. And I think the Jets being home and that defense, I think they're going to lead it to a win. Obviously, both teams not being confident, like Matt said, and like I said. I think it's going to come down to the defense, and I think the Jets are going to get it done.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets as well. I always had faith in Trevor Siemian. He's getting the start, and he's gonna get the job done.
I don't think he's going to get the job done. I just can't root for the. I could root for the Jets team, but it's just hard watching them as of right now. And like Matt said, I think the defense is unmotivated, and then they're going to be on the field for way too long. I think the Commanders' offense is going to take that over to get the win here. 7-7 Seahawks come off their best win of the season versus the 5-9 Titans.
I'm a big fan of Mike Vrabel and the way that he coaches this Titans team, but again, they're out of contention. They're very unmotivated, and the Seahawks are coming, as Jack, you said, coming off the best win of their season, trying to find their way into the NFC playoff picture. So I'm going to have them going on the road to beat the Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Seahawks here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks as well.
Yeah, I'll also be taking the Seahawks for a clean sweep from the board. 8-6 Jaguars versus a very hot 7-7 Buccaneers.
Yeah, I just think this NFC South is the worst division maybe I've ever seen in my lifetime. I think the Jags will take care of business, and we might have a team with a losing record enter the playoffs.
I'm going to go with the Bucs here. They're red hot. Baker had one of the best games of his career last week, probably the best game of his career. Jags are just really iffy. Lawrence looked terrible last week. I think he had 3 picks. So yeah, I think the Bucs are gonna get it done here at home, and still obviously take the lead in the division.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers here. I never had faith in Trevor Lawrence, and I just don't like him. So, and Baker's hot, so give me the Bucs at home.
Yeah, Dom does bring up a good point. The media has been talking a lot how they're realizing kind of how Trevor Lawrence is more of an overrated quarterback. Most turnovers since 2021 as a quarterback, and I'm going to be taking the Jaguars here to win this one. I think the Buccaneers are going to slow down at some point. Moving on to 3-11 Cardinals going to the Windy City versus the Bears.
As a big Justin Fields guy, I would say I'm a Bears fan a little bit, and I really want what's best for this franchise and for him. And unfortunately, I think the Chicago Bears are going to win, which only hurts them because they clearly cannot make the playoffs, and it will hurt their draft pick. But I just think that they are the better team. They're playing at home. They're going to get the job done.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bears here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears too.
I'm going to take the Cardinals. I think Kyler's, trying to get his, I wouldn't say contract, but trying to get traded to a good team with how he plays in the last couple games. So I think he gets a win here. Speaking of media, this is what's called the Fraud Bowl this week. The 10-4 Cowboys going to Miami to verse the Dolphins.
The only fraud team in this game plays in Miami. The Cowboys are going to open a lot of eyes this weekend. They're going to put a hurting on the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, last week was not ideal for the Cowboys. Buffalo just completely annihilated that game from start to finish. So yeah, but I think the Cowboys are going to bounce back this week. Dolphins got to prove it to me still. They still really haven't, although they're 10-4. Um, I'm still not bought in on them. So I think the Cowboys are going to get back on track and win this week.
Yeah, love both these teams. I love Dak MVP. I love Tyreek and that Dolphins offense. But I'm gonna have to take the Dolphins here. I think in these last three games, Dolphins are gonna make a statement. They're gonna make a statement that they're not frauds and that they're gonna make a run in the playoffs as well. I also feel like Miami has a very good home field advantage because opponent sidelines are you're gonna be steaming. So give me the Dolphins with this one.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it every show. We've brought the Dolphins, how I don't like this team at all, and they haven't beat a winning record team since week 3 of last year. I'm taking the Dolphins here, and I'll go into it in depth later about the Cowboys. I think Dolphins winning this game is like equivalent of beating a very below average team, and I will go into it later before anybody jumps on me. Moving on, the 3-11 New England Patriots going to Denver, Mile High, 7-7 Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May is essentially the quarterback for the New England Patriots. It's just a matter of time. The Broncos are, again, fighting for a playoff spot. They have something to actually play for, so I'll go with the Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos.
Broncos country, let's ride.
That's a sweep. Also, we taking the Broncos 6-8 Raiders versus the Chiefs.
I'll keep this one short. I'll just take the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs here.
Yeah, give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, another sweep for us. First time these teams are versing Giants versus Eagles.
Again, I'll keep it very short and sweet. I'll take the Eagles at home.
Sadly, I'm gonna have to take the Eagles here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well.
Yeah, I think Eagles' backs against the wall after a 3-game losing streak. I think I'm going to take them as well to win. A lot of people are calling this the Super Bowl preview on Christmas night. What a game this will be. 11-3 Baltimore Ravens looking at the top of the AFC versus an 11-3 49ers who are consensus number one team in the NFL.
I mean, this 49ers team coming off of a very tough game last week. So, I'm not entirely sure how this one's going to go. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think they will take care of business because it is being played in Santa Clara at the 49ers home stadium. But I think if this game was being played in Baltimore, then the Ravens would take it. So this would be a super intriguing Super Bowl matchup. But I'm just going to take the 49ers because the game is being played in San Fran.
Yeah, I know Glock's not going to be happy with me, but I'm a huge Ravens guy. I love this team. Very complete team. Defense is very solid. Offense, is very consistent, puts up points. Lamar's having an amazing year. OBJ is kind of getting back to his old self. He's been looking very good lately. But yeah, and Isaiah Likely's filled in amazingly for Mark Andrews, receiving wise. So honestly, I'm gonna take the Ravens here. I think they get it done against the Niners. I think the Niners are due for one more loss before the playoffs. And I think it's going to come here against the Ravens.
Yeah, I hate the Ravens, so I'm going to take the 49ers here. But, I still think that people are overrating the Ravens just a little bit. I don't think they're that good of a team to be able to beat the 49ers at home.
Yeah, this Niners team is one of the most complete teams I've seen in a while watching the NFL. And if nobody's injured, which we saw a couple players are injured early in the season, that's where their 3 losses came from. This team is almost perfect, and I'm going to be taking them to win at home on Christmas night. We'll move on to our Super Bowl contender teams that all have strengths and weaknesses to make or win the Super Bowl. We'll start with Matt with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, so I think that the Ravens' number one strength is, Bobby touched on it before, how complete of a team they are. I think this is one of the more complete teams I've seen in my years watching football. I mean, they're number one in the NFL in terms of points against. They're number 4 in the NFL in terms of points for. Those are staggering numbers, absolutely unbelievable. And this team has done it against pretty good competition. We know the AFC North is an incredibly tough division, but they picked up wins against the Texans, against the Seahawks, against the Lions, and on the road against Jacksonville. I know a lot of people are going to say Trevor Lawrence is a bit of a fraud, but that's a very high quality win. And you look at their record, I mean, they're 11-3. That obviously speaks volumes. And one of their losses was when 9 of 22 starters were out early in the season when they played the Colts. So this team has absolutely zero holes. And on paper, just with everything I just gave you, it's very hard to say that they aren't upon the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Now, for my weakness for this team, and shout out Guak because he loves to bring this up, and I agree, it is a bit of a concern, their inexperience winning in the playoffs. They've gotten there in recent years. You look at Lamar, he's gotten there in recent years, but he does not have a proven track record of winning games in the playoffs. And I'm sure we'll touch on it throughout the rest of the season, but I think it's a similar concern with Brock Purdy, just to bring that up for a second. I think neither quarterback has really gotten the job done in the playoffs, which for me, if the Ravens are matched up with the team like the Chiefs, it's going to be pretty difficult for me to pick against Patrick Mahomes, a guy who's so proven in the playoffs. So I think that's what's holding this Ravens team back from me saying, oh, they're a Super Bowl lock. I think it's just they haven't done it in the playoffs consistently. So I think they're a very intriguing pick for the Super Bowl, but I just need to see him get it done in the playoffs first.
All right, Bobby, we'll go to a team that's been fluctuating a lot this week, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on this Chiefs team. In fantasy, I had Kelsey Mahomes, so I watch this team almost every single week. And I'll start with the strengths. For the team overall, like Matt was just saying with the Ravens, they got playoff experience, whether it's the players with the quarterback or coaching. Andy Reid's been there many times. He knows how to get it done in the playoffs. We'll go to the defense. They've given up 17.5 points per game, which is third in the league. George Karlaftis has 9 sacks. Chris Jones having an off year, but making everyone else on this defense better. Still having 7.5 sacks. Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed stepping up huge in the secondary has been a big part of this team. McDuffie has 5 forced fumbles, which is second in the league, and 51 solo tackles. And Sneed has given up 0 touchdowns with 2 interceptions in the red zone and given up 29.9 yards per game, making a name for himself in 2023. On the offense, Rashee Rice has been a big difference maker for this offense, making it still work, scoring points as Kelsey has been getting doubled and tripled almost every game all year. He has 7 touchdowns, tied 8th in the league, 68 receptions, which is top 20. And then Isaiah Pacheco, he's turning up this year. It's really their first RB1 since Jamal Charles that they've kind of leaned on, with over 700 yards on the ground, 6 TDs on the ground, and averaging over 4 yards per carry. And the offensive line, only giving up 21 sacks this year, which is top 5 in the league, which is very, very impressive to my Giants. I think it's like 100 or something almost. And then we'll go to the weaknesses. Mahomes, he's having an off year. I know he doesn't have his legit wide receiver one. His touchdown interception ratio is 25-13, which is by far the worst in his career. Kelsey having a complete off year. Teams are finding a way to shut him down, doubling, tripling him, as there's not really that other playmaker on the offense like they have with Tyreek Hill. He's down 7 touchdowns from last year, over 500 yards with only three games left to play, and also 35 less receptions. So, I mean, although that's really their only weaknesses, as their defense is playing very, very well, those are their 2 stars. I think, like Matt said, it's gonna be hard to bet against them in the playoffs, come playoff time. But during the season, it's kind of been them too that have just not been the same and haven't been themselves. So I hope to see that they both go back to how they used to be together and kind of dominate the playoffs. But yeah, those are their 2 main weaknesses this year.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm with you 100%. I just want to jump in. I agree with everything you just said. The one thing I'm going to add is that I do want to take a little bit of pressure off of Patrick Mahomes here. He is 13 interceptions, which is 3rd in the NFL in interceptions. But, I mean, if you look at these interceptions, there are 2 that have hit Kadarius Toney's hands and went to the other team. So I don't think it's as bad as the numbers say because you take 2 away, then he's sitting borderline top 5, which is not great, no doubt about it. But, I mean, you touched on it before. I just want to emphasize it. That receiving core has been god-awful. It's so hard to watch with how talented Patrick Mahomes is. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, real quick, going off what you said, I definitely thought about that as I was looking up these stats. But again, as Mahomes hasn't really, looked the same at all. Like, he hasn't had his weapons. But like you said, some interceptions, some fumbles, some turnovers, some bad drives have not come just from him. It's come from the team around him, which overall the weakness is the offense, really. They've had some bright spots, like I said, the offensive line, the Pacheco and Rice. But yeah, I agree with you not putting it all on Mahomes, but you definitely have to put some of it on Mahomes. Not looking the same, and also what I have not liked at all is his body language. He's been a complete baby on the sideline, kind of breaking up this team's chemistry, and complaining and slamming his helmet, crying, and because his teammate dropped the ball. It's not like him. He's not. He's kind of getting out of how he usually plays. So yeah, that's really it. But I understand that, Matt, 100%.
All right, moving on. This is going to be a long list of weaknesses, I feel here. Eagles on a 3-game losing streak have changed their defensive coordinator. Don, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I'm actually going to start with the weaknesses. I mean, this secondary has been absolutely terrible. As you saw, the Seahawks game, lost in the game. I know they didn't have Darius Slay in that game, but they picked on James Bradbury every single play in that final drive. They've let up 24 points per game, which is 26th in the league, and I believe 255 passing yards, which is about like 28th in the league. They're playing absolutely terrible. And one of their second weaknesses is turnovers. Jalen Hurts is tied for first in turnovers with 17 turnovers. These turnovers are in the playoffs. They're not going to win games if he's turning over the ball. You need to keep the ball. You need to you need to play good. And so now I'm going to move over to the strengths. O-line, as we know, that's one of the best in the league. They're ranked 8th in rush yards per game and 7th in points scored per game. This offense, besides the turnovers, has looked very, very good throwing and running the ball. With the new add DeAndre Swift, he's been very great this year, and AJ Brown has had an amazing year so far. So if they fix those turnovers and that secondary steps up, I mean they're a Super Bowl contender by far.
Yeah, one thing I want to step in about the Eagles, it's really the coordinators, as I mentioned before. They lost Shane Steichen and they lost Sean Gannon. Now they come in with Brian Johnson, and I can't remember the first guy's name, but now it's Matt Patricia. And before last year, Shane Steichen had his offense in motion in top 10 in the league. Now Brian Johnson's offense is 32nd in motion before the play. I think the offense is dead with him. I think he's honestly one of the worst offense coordinators of what he's doing with this offense. You have the best O-line in the league. You have arguably the best weapons in the league. You have an amazing quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who you just paid a max contract, and he's playing horrible. And I think that's honestly the reason of the offensive coordinator. But we're going to move on to another NFC East team for their strengths and weaknesses. It's going to be me with the Cowboys. I'll start with their strengths. I think Dak is playing his best football of his career. I don't think there's a doubt in that. Looking to get the MVP, they have a top 5 offense and defense in the league. Their coverage defense has been improving nonstop. I think the receiving core this year is probably the most balanced they've ever had. CeeDee is 103 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 8 TDs. Brandon Cook's having a great year. Gallup is starting to have an okay year. Jake Ferguson is actually starting to be a great tight end, catching a lot of touchdowns. And, of course, the Cowboys' offensive line is always the Cowboys' offensive line. But we're going to move into the weaknesses, which I have a lot for this Cowboys team. I'm going to preface it that they are most likely going to get the 5th seed. They currently have a tiebreaker to not be in the playoffs with the Eagles right now. I think Eagles have a very, very easy schedule the next 3 games, and Cowboys have a very, very hard one the next 3 games. So I think most likely they're going to have the 5th seed. I think that's the most it's just the most reasonable thing. And the biggest weakness out of this Cowboys team is the home versus away. They are 7-0 at home, and they are 3-4 away. The 3rd largest difference between home and away points per game in the Super Bowl era. third largest ever is insane. Negative 18.2 between home and away points per game. And we'll go into their 3-4 record away. The 3 wins were okay, honestly. I mean, the Giants' first game of the season was a blowout. I get it. Chargers by 3 indoor, SoFi, with over 50% of fans being Cowboys fans there. So you can honestly count that as a home game for the Cowboys. And then versus the Panthers, the worst team statistically this year. And I can't really credit that win. Their four losses away are Cardinals by 12, 49ers by 32, Eagles by 5, and Bills by 21. All not great performances, but I'm going to get into that Bills game. Josh Allen didn't even play good in that Bills game. He had 7 completions. It really all came from James Cook. They had 266 rushing yards as a team, 179 of those from James Cook. Joe Brady essentially stuck to 3 plays when I was watching the game, called Pony 21, which is 21 personnel, which is 2 running backs and tight ends, which 2 or 3 of them are blocking. Pull tackle, which you pull the backside tackle away from Parsons so he wasn't involved. Or hop the back, which is known as counter, away from Micah Parsons. If you count the plays and you watch it, 6 out of 49 rushing plays last game, Micah Parsons was not around the play. And I think that is all a credit to Joe Brady. And coaches now are going to start using that. Dan Quinn cannot adjust to simple play calling by Joe Brady. And once Zach Martin got hurt, the Bills really started to blitz heavy, and McCarthy couldn't adjust an offense. I think the coaches are a little outdated in the NFL right now, and they can't adjust to these exotic offense coordinators or coaches like Shanahan, like Joe Brady that you have in the NFL. I don't think that's going to help them in trying to make a Super Bowl run. The last thing I have is Dak's cadence in the away. While it may be a joke, it has been a huge strength at home. Cowboys run what's called a check offense. They call 2 to 3 plays in the huddle, and when they get to the line, Dak reads the defense and he calls the play then. But due to being away with noise and hard count, they can't run that. So Dak really takes away Dak's skill and the best part of his game, which has shown very, very mightily in his away versus home games.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, that was fantastic. I agree with pretty much everything you said, but I'm going to raise you a question here. You touched on the home away splits, and no doubt, absolutely drastic. But I think it's very reasonable to say the Cowboys could claim the 2 seed in the NFC, or potentially even the 1 seed, but we'll call it a top 2 seed. They could win the division. I would say very likely. If they get that NFC East title and they have to play the majority of their games at home in the playoffs, could this be a Super Bowl team potentially? I mean, they are the best team in the NFL at home, far and away, undefeated. So, I mean, this to me looks like a team that if they win their division, we're looking at a Super Bowl team or an NFC championship team lock. And then if they lose the division and they have to go on the road, I mean, it could be a completely different story. But could it be realistic to say that this team could make the Super Bowl despite all of the weaknesses if they win their division?
No, I think it's totally realistic. I forgot to add it. Like, if this team does actually win the division, which is, in my opinion, very unlikely with the 2 schedules matching up, then yes, I think the sky's the limit for this team. They're only going to have to play, I believe, 1 home game. That would probably be if the Niners also make it to the NFC Championship. But look, that's a game that's going to come down to coaching. And I also think the coaching is one of my big weaknesses for this team. I think if they don't win the wild card or the divisional round, I think Mike McCarthy is done as a coach. He just lost too many of these big games. But I think if they are home and they win the division and they're 2nd seed, yes, I totally think they are easily a top 3 team in the NFL. But we'll move on to coaches that are on the hot seat. We'll start off back to you, Matt. Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I mean, there is absolutely no excuse for the abomination that he has put on the field week in, week out. I think it's pretty clear here the weapons that are at his disposal right now. I mean, you're looking at Drake London, you're looking at Kyle Pitts, you're looking at Bijan Robinson. These are 3 of the top playmakers from the recent drafts. They used high draft picks on them. We're not even using them. I don't understand it. It's beyond me. I don't really understand any of the scheme whatsoever. We're 26th in points per game with said weapons. And then I also want to go to the close game management. I'm looking right here. Every single loss besides 2, which is 6 losses on the Falcons schedule, 6 of their 8 losses have been 1-possession games. How are you going to manage to lose all of those games? And these are not to elite teams. You're looking at home against the Bucks, on the road against the worst team in the NFL, the Panthers, the Cardinals. Like it just, I don't understand the play calling, the game management by Arthur Smith. Forget the weapons, just the game management is also atrocious. So if you're combining the non-utilizing the weapons that are at his disposal on the offense and putting out an atrocious product offensively, and then you couple that with the atrocious game management down the stretch, I think we can all agree the Falcons team as a whole is not an elite team. They're not an elite roster, but this is a team that really should win this division based on how many close games they were in throughout this year with this very inferior teams, and yet they find a way to throw it away so consistently. So I just think Arthur Smith needs to go and needs to go fast, because this Falcons team will never be able to grow with their young stars while he's at the helm.
Yeah, real quick, before I go, I completely agree with you. Having Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London on your offense, and you can't produce a lot of points every game and win games is a problem. It's not the offensive coordinator, whether it is or isn't. It starts with the head coach, and it's a real big problem that they have over there in Atlanta with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees when you draft Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson all in the first round, and you still have a bottom half league offense. I think that's just you got to look at the coach there and the player development. So I totally agree. I think he should be gone this season. This one has been rising a lot lately. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record in a season, but this year they're staring down a losing record, Bobby.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a talk about getting rid of Mike Tomlin. Historically, yeah, like you just said, Jack, he hasn't had a losing season, and obviously it's not his fault. This team isn't crazy skilled. They have a good amount of guys on the offense. I think Deontay Johnson is not good. I don't think he's a very good receiver. I think Pickens is good. His attitude's terrible. Najee and Warren are probably the bright spot of this offense. But again, going to Tomlin, the coaching changes. There's been a good amount of coaching changes on this team, and it's not easy for in season changes, whether it's offense, defense, or in the locker room with game plans. Different minds. It's tough, and also starts with the players too. With how they perform. You've seen a lot of stuff. I think I saw saw something today about Pickens not blocking and saying he didn't want to get hurt. That's just that's nowhere near the coach's problem. How is the head coach, besides telling the player block, what else is he supposed to do? He's putting the best guys that they have out there. And like I said, historically, you can't argue stats. And historically, he's one of the most successful coaches to ever coach this game. So let's kind of take that in consideration. And I don't think that there's any reason for him to be on the hot seat. They have much bigger problems to figure out in this franchise.
I 100% agree. And touching two things really quick, touching on the George Pickens situation. Mike Tomlin, he's a vet in this league as a coach. As you've mentioned, he's done a phenomenal job his entire career, very lengthy career. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface on how successful he's going to be. Not once have we ever really seen like Mike Tomlin having a problem controlling the locker room. Look at what he did with the personalities of Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, and Antonio Brown, and he managed to keep things together and create a winning football team. Although wildly talented, some of the more colorful personalities in recent NFL history, and yet he manages to keep it together. So I would say it doesn't fall on Mike Tomlin in the locker room. That's for darn sure. And then also you touched on it again, Bobby, the personnel is just terrible. I mean, Kenny Pickett is really one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, 25th in QBR. I mean, Matt Canada fired mid-year. There's been a lot of turmoil throughout the entire franchise. So I agree. Just Mike Tomlin is definitely not the problem. They have a lot of other things to address.
Yeah.